Next, we're at O'Shea's in Louisville. We're going to preview the UK versus LSU game coming up. Plus, talk about Ryan Timmons. Mark Stoops paid him a visit. What does he have to say about it? Leslie Neely was there. That's coming up in 30 seconds. Friday night's KSTV is right around the corner. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Kentucky Sports Television. We're here at O'Shea's downtown in Louisville, joined by Perrin Johnson, Chip Cosby from CN2 Sports, having a good time. First, I have to say, congratulations, Chip. Yesterday was your one-year anniversary of your show, CN2 Sports. Congratulations on that.
Thank you very much. Very exciting. I want to thank you and Perrin both for your contributions to the first year of CN2 Sports.
And Perrin, it's good to have you out here. People see the commercial. They know you're the best college basketball analyst in the state. You only do the fifth most shows, but we're happy to have you here. You're having fun at O'Shea's tonight.
I mean, I'm having a blast, you know. I mean, even though I only do the fifth most shows of all time, I'm trying to get that number up a little bit higher. I'm fifth on the all-time list, so I mean, as long as I'm in the top five, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, this is like your stomping. I feel like you're the king of the city. The nightlife belongs to Perrin Johnson, so it's good to have you out
I have no
here.
idea what you're talking about. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Now, Kentucky, of course, trying to bounce back from a loss to Alabama. They take on LSU Saturday at Rupp Arena. Last year was a game, Chip, that kind of served as the Cats getting back on track. Terrence Jones, he had injured his pinky. That was the game where he really got going. They were muscled around by Johnny O'Brien. The guard play attacked them, and that was a great team that kind of found that extra step. When you look at this Kentucky team that is struggling, heading into LSU, what's the key for you that you want to see them show on Saturday?
Some heart, some toughness, some composure. I mean, we know the talent. Look, it's not a question of talent. Now, do they have an Anthony Davis or Mike Kidd-Gilchrist? No. But they've got four guys who would be first-round draft picks, maybe five right now.
Right.
So they've got the talent, but they just haven't shown to have the intangibles that you need. I mean, to win a championship or even to be a great team, you got to have toughness, you got to have heart, you got to have mental toughness and composure. And those are areas that this team has been lacking to this point.
Where does that toughness come from, Perrin? Playing basketball, you played with some great players, talented guys, but also some guys, I think like Ellis Miles, who's just tough. Where does that toughness come from? Can you develop it, or is it just guys have it when they arrive on campus?
I believe that guys just have it. I mean, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist was a perfect example. He was just a tough-nosed kid. And I don't think they have anybody on this team one guy that's going to actually be tough. They're going to have to be tough as a unit, but that's not something you develop into the 18th or 19th game into the season. I think they needed to go ahead and they're not tough people. They're not. Let's just go ahead and say it. Yeah. And the problem is, it's kind of like the Lakers in the NBA. Everybody's expecting this team to hit a turn, but they're never going to hit it, I feel like, and they just they're going to have to execute and play great defense. If they can't do those two things, they're going to have a long way to go with the SEC schedule.
Have we misjudged the team, including national media, everyone? Preseason number 3 expected John Calipari, these freshmen, to turn the corner. And the potential, you say young players, John Calipari, there's potential to be a Final Four team. Were they just misjudged? Maybe this is a group of freshmen. This is how they're supposed to play. Did we expect too much from them to think that they could contend for a title?
Well, first things first, you never expect too much because, number one, you always got to remember it's Kentucky. So it's Final Four or bust at Kentucky, and that's the expectation. That's always going to be like that. The second thing is the rankings are always based on the year before, so you can't be mad that those guys win a national championship and put the expectation on the guys right now. Only person I'm worried about on this team is Ryan Harrow and maybe a couple other guys, but mainly Ryan Harrow, because next year the Harrison twins are coming in.
Right.
And they're not going to sit down.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's not a draft pick. So, outside of that, that's the only person I'm really worried about psychologically.
And the pressure is, we talked to Nerlens. He came on the show a couple times where he was on campus, Chip, and Nerlens said, we want to win a championship. Every day we talk about winning a championship. It looks now like that maybe was an unrealistic expectation. Is that the right mentality? I mean, they come in, we maybe expected too much of them, but was it unrealistic for them to think that they could all come together this quickly?
Probably not. I mean, you think about it. Like Perrin said, it's Kentucky. You're bringing in one of the top recruiting classes in the country, a bunch of guys who will be lottery picks. But the problem with that is there's no way to measure chemistry. What looks good on paper isn't always good. You look at a team like UConn last year. They had Andre Drummond, Jeremy Lamb, a couple other guys who are pro prospects, and they barely made the tournament. They remind me a lot of that UConn team, a team that I thought last year was going to contend for a Final Four. They had the talent, but the chemistry was never there. They never really developed as a team, and they lost in the first round of the tournament. So I think sometimes what looks good on paper doesn't always measure up because the intangible things you don't know until the guys get there and start playing.
I think something that's also overlooked is that last year's team, they spent a lot of months playing with NBA All-Stars. The Thunder was in town, Rondo was in town, Josh Smith. They had a chance to play against players that were better than anyone they were going to see and develop that chemistry together. This team hasn't really had that. And you look at Kyle Wiltshire coming back as the veteran player. How's he going to be a leader when he hasn't been challenged? All he played in was wins last year. He didn't really ever hit the wall with that team, and I think that they're not getting that leadership from him, partially because it's not his personality, but also because of that. And against LSU, they have a chance to bounce back, but they have to bounce back in the right way. They have to start forming those habits. When you play a bad team, Perrin, coming off a loss, most people assume it's probably nice to play a bad team and have an expectation of winning pretty easily. But is it easier to fall into these bad habits? I mean, what's the challenge when you play a team that you should be? They're going to be favored by double digits, I would assume. What's the challenge of playing a bad team like that?
It's difficult in some sense in certain areas and certain things because you want to get a win under you, right, but it's not a real win. It's like a used car. It's your first car. Your first car is a used car. Mine was a '95 Corolla, and it was my car. I love my car, but it was my sister's first. So but when I first bought my first car, it was my car.
Right.
Same thing with them. Those guys, they've done certain things, but the problem with them is the expectation has been placed before them so many times, and people are expecting them to perform, but they're not doing those things. So people are saying, why this? Oh, he sucks. He's not ready. And the crazy part about it is they have so many guys that are so talented that all get drafted so high, they just can't put it together.
Do you, Chip, I know we talked a little bit about this, do you find any fault with John Calipari this season? Anything they're doing or not doing? He looks like a crazy man. Like he looks as stressed out as I've ever seen him right now. But do you place any blame for these struggles on Cal?
I don't know if he placed any blame. Certainly, I think there's some things he could have done better, and he might not admit that publicly, but I'm sure he thinks every night, where did I go wrong with these guys? And I think one thing I would tell Cal, relax a little bit, and Cal, he's, we see him, he's the master marketer, the PR guy, always cracking jokes, but he can be tough to play for. And when you're losing games, and the thing about mental toughness, these guys aren't as mentally tough as guys like Davis, Kip Gilchrist. I think sometimes you can be overbearing to the point where you beat your guys down, they lose confidence. I like to see Cal, it's going to sound corny, be a little more warm and fuzzy, be a little more positive, build those guys up a little bit, because clearly they're not responding to the way he usually does things. He ripped when John Wall was here. There was a point where there was some back and forth about Wall was having trouble responding to his coaching. So I like to see Cal let up just a little bit, maybe be a little more positive, and see what kind of effect that would have.
So it sounds like you're advocating for bringing back Joker Phillips and an ice cream social and a pool
have
day,
ice
something
cream,
like that.
do
Joker come in.
Do some screwdrivers off the diving board or something,
You mentioned Ryan Harrow. To you, is he the most important part of this team and getting it to a level where it can compete for a Final Four?
Well, when you look at great teams, all great teams start with a great point guard.
Right.
And the best point guard in college basketball is Trey Burke at Michigan. He always gets the team involved, and he sets up everybody else, and he scores a ton of points. But when you look at this team, Ryan Harrow, I remember the first game of the season, people killed me on Twitter because I said Ryan Harrow's not the answer at point guard. Oh, it's only one game. Oh, he has the flu. Oh, he did nothing that resembled what a point guard did. He didn't call any plays. He looked lost, and then he waited to call something with 10 seconds on the shot clock. Well, now it's too late. So, when I look at this as a whole, I think this is pretty much like a lot of UK fans are doing. They're trying to scrap this and get ready for next year because the problem is the schedule does not get any easier when you look at the schedule.
They're playing a lot of teams that are going to be a lot like Alabama, a lot like Tennessee, a lot like Vanderbilt. Not talented, but they're really going to challenge them physically, and we'll see how they respond. We'll be back in just about 30 seconds or a couple minutes from O'Shea's in Lexington. We're going to be talking about the must-win games on the schedule, like Perrin mentioned, as well as some of the keys to the season turning around for the UK basketball team. We will be back after this. Check your forecast on CN2. Welcome back to Kentucky Sports Television. We're at O'Shea's in Louisville, not Lexington. I said Lexington before we went to the break, and right after we got done, Perrin's like, dude, we're not in Lexington. So Louisville, we're in Louisville having fun at O'Shea's. Make sure you check it out downtown. Talking UK basketball, every game at this point seems like it's a must-win, or pretty close to it, Chip. Games that are remaining, Florida, you think you'd have to split, probably win at Missouri. What are the key games to you when you look at Kentucky's schedule that you say you've got to win this one, you cannot drop this?
Missouri's coming to Rupp for college. I believe College Game Day is going to be in town. Missouri is beatable. Now they've got talent, but they've underachieved this year. You've got to get that one at home.
Right.
I think the Florida, I think they're going to lose at Florida and could lose at Florida. But I think if they hold serve and beat Missouri at Rupp, it's a quality enough win. I mean, like I said, it's College Game Day. Everybody will be watching. They get that one, I think they're in good shape. But if they lose to Missouri, then I really think they're going to have to sweat it out on Selection Sunday.
What's the margin for error, you think, Perrin? How many games do you think they can drop? Or is it you play the bad teams, don't lose any of those, or you're in trouble and probably not going to make the tournament?
I think they can only drop 2 games. Yeah. They gotta win. They gotta win at home. They gotta win out at home. They gotta beat Florida at home. They have to beat Missouri at home. The problem they're gonna run into is they gotta win at A&M. You gotta get that game back. And then also the other problem is you got to go to Florida. So, I mean, that's going to be a tough game. But they also have to play at Tennessee, and that's going to be a dog match.
Yeah. And at Arkansas. I mean, that's not going to be a walk in the park either.
No, it's not.
It seems like all these teams have 2 players that are really good and can do damage against Kentucky, and then they have a lot of guys that just want to beat you up. Yeah. It's going to be a challenge every time they play. We talked on Chip's show the other day, and we've written some stuff on the website, keys to turning around the season. For me, one of the big keys is just getting healthy, because you want to get, Twani Beckham's banged up. You don't know what he can do. John Hood's been banged up. But Willie Cauley-Stein, how much, if he comes back 100%, whenever it is, Perrin, what do you expect from Willie Cauley-Stein? How much can he change how they look right now?
I mean, 2 things with Willie Cauley-Stein. Number one, he's a presence because he's 7 feet tall. Yeah. And you can't teach height. You can't teach what he does. So when you look at what he does, he doesn't score a ton of points. He only averages 5.5 rebounds a game. But he's a presence. And a lot of people aren't going to go to the hole when you have a 7-footer in there. And if you get past Willie Cauley-Stein, there's Noel's on the other side, the opposite block. So, I mean, it makes it very difficult for people to score in the interior, believe it or not. People don't think that, but it's true. Like Elston Turner, he scored 40 points. It was all 8 feet behind the 3-point line. So, I mean, you gotta really shoot the ball. Even though Kentucky's not a great team, you have to shoot the ball consistently well to beat them. And a lot of teams got to beat them from the perimeter. So I think perimeter defense will really set them apart right now.
And one of the other things we talked about on the perimeter is Archie Goodwin. Kentucky fans after that game were killing him on Twitter. Yes. Very frustrated. Are you down on Archie? Do you think that he's a big part of the problem, what's going on right now? Or you still have hope for him?
He's not playing well, but you can't give up on him because you need him.
Right,
I mean, if you give up on Archie Goodwin, who are you going to replace him with?
Right,
I mean, I like the way Jared Polson has played, but you can't expect Polson. He's a role player.
Right.
They don't have anybody to step up in that voice. You got to just stick with him through his mistakes. I just think he's lost confidence. Yeah. Here's the thing about playing at Kentucky. You have 1 or 2 bad games in a row, it's a big deal. Yeah. I mean, it's talked about on Twitter. It's talked about on talk radio. It's talked about on message boards. Those guys hear that. He needs one good game. He was playing so well earlier in the year. I think he hit a rough spot. I think it got in his head a little bit, and now his confidence is shot. If he comes out with a 25, 30-point game, I think he gets back on track.
And it's worse when you're losing and you don't have guys that can pick up the slack, and this team isn't good enough to do that. Archie Goodwin, Perrin, is he killing the Cats right now, or do you think he's just struggling a little bit and he will get back on track?
I think it's 2 things. I think the first thing is he's hitting the freshman wall, where he's used to being so much better than everybody else around him. Yep. So he's used to going out there coasting, not giving it his all. The problem now is nobody cares on the opposite team who you are, where you're from, and what you've done, because they've done the same thing just as much as you have. The other problem is that, I mean, the guys around him aren't that good. Nobody wants to say it. Ryan Harrow's not as good as we thought. I mean, Julius Mays.
You're killing Ryan Harrow tonight.
Julius Mays is not as good as we thought he was.
What about Poitras?
He's hit the freshman wall. And then every time something goes wrong for him, he drops his head. So and then you can see Cal building him back up. So you got the problem you're having is all these guys who have been told how good they are their whole life. Now they've hit a little bit of controversy, and you're going to see how they react to it. Some take it the good way, some take it the bad way.
Terrence Jones was very similar, I think, and not in his style of play, but his freshman year, he carried them the first 16, 17 games, and all of a sudden he emerged as maybe one of the contenders for National Player of the Year. Then Cal came out and said, I'm not satisfied. I want him to be a great player, and kept pushing him. And he lost. I mean, he was just gone mentally, and it took him until midway of his sophomore year to get back on track. They need Archie Goodwin. The thing about Archie that I think is really important is, like Chip said, no one else can score the ball. And you hit that wall, another team goes on a run, you have to put the ball in Archie's hands. He's just not making shots right now. And if he starts making shots, I mean, you're a Kobe guy, right? When
Yes.
Kobe's not hitting shots, everybody in the world's calling him selfish, right?
Yeah.
And when he's hitting shots, they're calling him the greatest scorer in the NBA, right? And
Absolutely.
not that Archie's on that level,
He
but
is
that's
leading the league in scoring, by the way, just so everybody understands that at home.
what's the record right now?
I'm not worried
good,
about
huh?
that.
All
We're talking about scoring.
But to me, they have to find a way to get him in the flow because the other guys are one-dimensional. Wilcher, shooter. Mays, a shooter. None of them can create shots for themselves. And part of that goes back to some of the other keys we talked about, running a pick and roll. Running that press when Willie Cauley-Stein's healthy, kind of artificial energy, right? You kind of, hypnotize yourself into playing fast. As the best basketball analyst in the state, Perrin, a pick and roll, if you say you put the ball in Archie Goodwin and Ryan Harrow's hands with Kyle Wilcher, how can that spark your offense has been struggling?
Well, the thing I would do is, if I wanted to, there's certain things that Kentucky they do so many little things not well that it snowballs into so many big things. They're not really good at screening, so guys like Julius Mays can't get open, and that's a problem for him because he's 6 foot,
Right.
so he can't shoot over guys that
And
are
he doesn't
6'3"
have
and
good handle,
6'4".
so he can't create his own
he
shot.
can't. He's not a guy that's gonna put the ball on the deck like you said. So then you have that. Then you have the pick and roll situation. Ryan Harrow, he's a little shaky. His confidence is shaking. And you can see that. If I can watch it from TV at home, I know the guy that's guarding him is talking smack and let him know, I dare you to shoot it. I dare you to shoot it. And he doesn't want to shoot that shot. So, and then the other problem with all the guards is you can't throw the ball inside.
Right.
Nerlens is your most effective scorer inside, and he doesn't even score 12 points a game. So it's all around bad for everyone right now. I mean, and when you look at it as a whole and you're saying all those things, they still have great talent, and it doesn't make any sense why it's not working.
And the other thing we talked about is just forgetting everything. Just trying to play basketball, and it seems simple enough, but at the time, I'm sure it's difficult to do. What's the most important thing, Chip? Is it something we talked about, something else out there? When you look at Kentucky, you say, just fix this one thing, and it will get you so close to where you need to be. Is there one thing that you can put your finger on right now?
The problem is their issues. Their main issue to me is toughness and chemistry, and is that fixable at this point? I mean, toughness to me, like we talked about earlier, either you got it or you don't. They don't seem to have it. Are they going to develop it when it's almost February? Chemistry is another thing. I mean, that's what would concern me about this team. Is if it was a talent issue, maybe you could make up for that in execution, intangibles. But when the intangibles are the problem, that's not as easy to fix as, some X's and O's issues.
Coming up here after the break from O'Shea's in Louisville, not Lexington, we're going to have a trivia question, have two people taking a chance to win some prizes. Here's your trivia question. John Calipari, before arriving at Kentucky, was the head coach at 3 places, both pro and in college. What are the places where he was the head coach? We will get that answer and talk a little football and hear from Ryan Timmons, a UK recruit, right after this. Check your forecast on CN2. Welcome back to Kentucky Sports Television here at O'Shea's in Louisville, having a good time tonight. Before the break, we asked a trivia question. Radio Ron Chilton now has 2 guests with him. Ron, take it away.
All right, Thomas, thank you very much. I do indeed have a couple of guests with me, and this time they are UK fans. First of all, on my far left, it would be Lacey Anderson. Hi, Lacey.
Hi, how are you?
Very well indeed. And Marshall Elliott. Marshall.
I'm doing great. Glad to be here.
Well, thank you, sir. We're at O'Shea's in downtown Louisville, not Lexington, TJ. And we're having a ball this evening. Now then, let me just ask a couple of questions. Marshall, how long have you been a UK fan?
Oh, all my life.
All right, and that would be, what, about 19 or 20 years?
About 22 years, yeah.
All right. How about you, Lacey?
My dad was a UK fan and always will be.
All right, very good. Now, Marshall, of course, UK is struggling just a bit, especially by UK fan standards. What do you think the real problem is this year?
I think we've got such dynamic players that they kind of want to focus on themselves. They don't really know the team aspect of it, but they're coming into their own.
All right, I think so too. What about you, Lacey? What do you think?
I guess it just depends, on who the coach is, I guess, sometimes.
I think so. And speaking of coaches, of course, our question tonight is, before coming to the University of Kentucky, John Calipari served as head coach for 3 teams. Now, first of all, I'm going to ask you, Marshall, what were the 2 college teams where he was head coach? John Calipari, head coach of?
UMass and Memphis.
Absolutely, you are correct. Let me give you your prize, a T-shirt from you, with the emblem of UK, of course. And Lacey, he was also the coach of a professional team. What team was that?
I can't remember.
Oh, of course you can. It's up east somewhere, and it starts with New
New York?
York. No, it's New Jersey. There we go, the New Jersey Nets, Memphis Tigers, and of course he was also coach of, where was that third team? Of course,
Memphis.
Memphis.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you so much, Lacey. And thank you, Marshall. By the way, you've been such a good sport. I am going to present you with a UK T-shirt. Thank you very much. And now, let's go back to Thomas Beisner. Thomas?
Thank you, Ron. Great job. Much better than your dancing skills. Just want to remind you that I did outdance you last week, for those who missed the show. A couple of fans got some blue shirts. Another guy that people would like to see in blue is Ryan Timmons from Franklin County. Mark Stoops visited him yesterday. So did our Leslie Neely. And here's what he had to say about that visit.
We went good. I like Coach Stoops. We had a great relationship when I first met him when he got the job, and then Coach Brown. I like him a lot too. We have a lot of similarities. He runs offense that I've been running for the last 5 years, so I already know half the plays that he's going to start running for Kentucky.
Now, Ryan Timmons, there's a battle brewing now. Florida has offered. Ohio State has gotten in their chip. He's intriguing. You watch his highlight tapes, and he's insanely fast. He can outrun. He looks like he'd be a great fit for the offense. Is he a guy that you'd like to see with Neil Brown calling plays?
It'd be a big gift for Kentucky. I've talked to a lot of people, sports writers in the state of Kentucky, that say as good as James Quick is, Ron Timmons isn't that far off. I mean, he's that same kind of impact player, so they can get him in there and plug him in that offense. I think he plays as a true freshman.
It seems kind of like the Zeke Pike, Patrick Tolles debate. Remember last year Zeke Pike was going to Auburn. A lot of people like Patrick Tolles. And Perrin, I know you're a Louisville guy. They're doing very well in football right now. Mark Stoops looks like he's got Kentucky turned around. Before Kentucky starts blowing Louisville out every year, do you want to switch allegiances? We'll give you a chance right now at O'Shea's in front of everybody. Do you want to come over to the good side?
Now, you don't even believe that. That's going to happen. Come on now. Kentucky. The thing about Kentucky football is this. Mark Stoops is going to do a great job, and I'm pretty sure he's that 110%. But the thing about it is, Kentucky fans want to watch something good, not great, before basketball season. So they want to see something good. 6 games at Kentucky. You see what they did with Rich Brooks. They might as well give him a parade in downtown Lexington. I mean, if you win 8 games at Kentucky, you might get a bronze statue.
So that's a yes. We'll take that as a yes.
I mean, I would cheer for Kentucky as long as they're not playing Louisville any day of the week.
We'll settle for it. Perrin, thank you for being here tonight. Chip, thank you. We had a lot of fun tonight at O'Shea's in Louisville. Remember, you can join us next week on Thursday night from 7 to 9 p.m. We'll be taping another CN2 Sports and KSTV at Saints in St. Matthews. I don't know if that's part of Perrin's domain, your stomping grounds, the part of town you own, but hopefully Perrin and Chip will be out there. I know Chip will be there. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Kentucky's win over LSU tomorrow. We'll be back on Monday to talk about that. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you on Monday.